February 8, 2022. Federal agents surround a luxury Manhattan apartment as a couple sleeps inside. They're executing a routine white-collar arrest, low-level money laundering suspects. But the hard drives they're about to seize contain the keys to $4.5 billion in stolen Bitcoin, the largest financial seizure in Department of Justice history. And the suspects? A Forbes columnist and a wannabe rapper who calls herself Razzlekhan. One couple against an immutable blockchain that recorded their every move for 6 years. Here's what Ilya and Heather don't know. While they thought time was erasing their digital footprints, investigators have been watching their fortune grow from 71 million to 4.5 billion. Every transaction, every wallet, every mistake, permanently inscribed on a ledger that never forgets. The moment they try to spend a single dollar, the trap springs shut. How did two amateur criminals steal billions and evade capture for 6 years? And what makes someone unable to resist touching money that's actively destroying them? What happened would answer both questions. But first, the heist. August 2nd, 2016. Ilya Lichtenstein sits in front of his computer, executing one of the most sophisticated exchange hacks in history. His target, Bitfinex, the world's largest Bitcoin trading platform at the time. He's been planning this for months, studying the architecture, finding the vulnerabilities, building the tools. Now he's inside. Over the next few hours, Ilya authorizes more than 2,000 unauthorized transactions. Bitcoin flows out of customer accounts in automated waves. 119,756 Bitcoins, worth $72 million at that moment, gone. He systematically deletes access credentials, wipes log files, covers every digital footprint he can find. By the time he's logged out, he thinks he's committed the perfect digital crime. But as the sun rises, Bitfinex announces a security halt. Customers log in. Something's wrong. Their balances don't match. Then the panic spreads. To keep the exchange alive, Bitfinex makes a brutal decision. Every single customer wakes up to find 36% of their holdings have vanished to cover the loss. The cryptocurrency community is in shock. This isn't some small exchange hack. This is Bitfinex. This is supposed to be secure. This is supposed to be impossible. Ilya and his girlfriend Heather Morgan watch the chaos unfold from their apartment. They've just pulled off the largest cryptocurrency theft in history. But here's the insane part. Ilya thinks he's committed the perfect crime by deleting those log files. He's actually created a permanent monument to every mistake he's about to make. Because the problem with stealing cryptocurrency isn't getting it out. It's what comes next. They have $72 million in Bitcoin sitting in a wallet that everyone in the world can see. Every transaction, every movement, every transfer, forever. The blockchain never forgets. What they didn't know yet, that immutable ledger would become their prosecutor, their judge, and their jury. Here's where it gets interesting. For years, most of the stolen Bitcoin sits in that original wallet, untouched. 94,000 of the 119,756 coins never move. But Bitcoin isn't sitting still. In 2016, it's worth $600 per coin. By 2017, it hits $20,000. By 2020, it's climbing past $30,000. By 2021, it reaches $60,000. Their $72 million theft is now worth over $4 billion. Ilya and Heather live seemingly normal lives in Manhattan. They start legitimate businesses. Heather writes articles for Forbes about entrepreneurship and social engineering. They create content. They build online personas. Every day that passes feels like safety. But here's what they don't understand about blockchain technology. If you make a mistake 5 years ago, that's still on the blockchain for everyone to see. Every transaction is permanent. Every wallet address is traceable. Every movement leaves breadcrumbs that will never disappear. They think time is erasing evidence. Time is multiplying it. But here's the thing. They're not just sitting on the money. They can't resist. Between 2016 and 2022, they laundered 25,111 Bitcoins through increasingly complex schemes. darknet markets, mixing services, chain hopping across different cryptocurrencies. They even convert the stolen coins into physical gold and bury it in the ground in California. Each movement creates more evidence. What they don't know is that someone has been watching that wallet since day one, waiting, recording, building a case. Unbeknownst to them, every transaction they think is anonymous is being cataloged in real time. And in July 2017, law enforcement gets a gift that will change everything. July 20th, 2017. The FBI and DEA shut down Alphabay, the largest darknet marketplace in history. For most people, this is just another drug market takedown. For cryptocurrency investigators, it's the Rosetta Stone. When servers are seized, law enforcement doesn't just get the marketplace. They get internal transaction logs, records of every darknet mixing service, every laundering attempt, every wallet that passed through Alphabay's ecosystem. And some of those wallets connect back to the Bitfinex hack. IRS criminal investigation agent Chris Janjowski and his task force start building the map. They can't identify who controls the wallets yet, but they can see the patterns, the laundering techniques, the chain hopping, the mixers. The net begins to tighten. But here's where it gets interesting. They don't move in, because rushing in would seize some Bitcoin. Waiting might capture everything. The question becomes, will Ilya and Heather give them what they need? Patience becomes the weapon. Little did the couple know their window of freedom was already closing. And that's when everything changed. While investigators quietly trace blockchain movements, Heather Morgan does something absolutely bizarre. She builds a public persona, not just any persona. She becomes Razzlekhan, a self-proclaimed crocodile of Wall Street who makes cringe-worthy rap videos and posts them online. She writes Forbes articles about entrepreneurship. She gives advice on social media. She creates content constantly. Think about the psychology here. She's sitting on billions in stolen Bitcoin. The smart move is to disappear, be invisible, stay off every radar. Instead, she's making music videos in sunglasses, rapping about being a bad bitch with crocodile teeth. Here's the psychological trick that made it work. Because they need to appear successful. They need to explain their lifestyle without revealing the source. The public persona becomes the cover story. The Forbes articles establish legitimacy. The content creation explains why they might have money. It exploited a fundamental human truth. People believe success they can see. But every video has a timestamp. Every post has a location. Every article creates a documented timeline of where they were and what they were doing. She thinks she's building an alibi. She's building the prosecution's evidence timeline. But here's the thing about trying to appear normal when you're sitting on stolen billions. Eventually, the numbers stop making sense. Your reported income doesn't match your lifestyle. Your tax returns don't explain your purchases. Investigators notice the gaps, and every transaction Heather makes while playing the public entrepreneur is recorded forever on the blockchain. What she didn't know yet, each TikTok post, each Forbes article, each cringe rap video was another nail in their coffin. But here's what nobody expected. By 2020, the psychological pressure becomes unbearable. Bitcoin hits $30,000, then $40,000, then $50,000, then $60,000. Their fortune is now worth $4.5 billion. Think about that for a moment. They've successfully evaded capture for 4 years. The money is right there, growing every day. A number so large it's almost incomprehensible. But it's untouchable, because the moment they try to convert significant amounts to real currency, they trigger alerts. Every major exchange reports suspicious transactions. Every bank monitors large deposits. Every luxury purchase creates paper trails. The fortune that should buy freedom becomes a prison. So they get more sophisticated. They use darknet markets to exchange Bitcoin for other cryptocurrencies. They run coins through mixing services that supposedly make them untraceable. They create chains of transactions across dozens of wallets. They think complexity equals safety. But blockchain analysts are developing tools specifically to track these patterns. The more sophisticated their laundering becomes, the more obvious the pattern becomes to trained investigators. Complexity isn't camouflage, it's a signature. Here's where it gets really interesting, because they've laundered over 25,000 bitcoins using methods that would impress even experienced criminals. There's just one thing they forgot to protect, and it's sitting in a cloud storage account. Law enforcement obtains access to Ilya's cloud storage. Inside, they find a spreadsheet, a simple Excel file that Ilya created to keep track of his stolen fortune. Wallet addresses, passwords, private keys to access the stolen funds, everything organized in neat rows and columns. The meticulous hacker who deleted log files from Bitfinex's servers kept a cheat sheet in the cloud. One file, one catastrophic oversight. Now investigators have everything: the blockchain trail from Alphabet, the movement patterns, the laundering techniques, and now direct proof of control. The private keys that only the thief would possess. All the pieces connect. Federal agents now have everything they need for an arrest, but they're not moving yet, because there's a difference between proving someone has access to stolen Bitcoin and catching them actually trying to spend it. They wait for the couple to access the wallets, to make that final move that removes all doubt. What they didn't know, Ilya and Heather would give them exactly what they needed. The trap was set. Now they just had to wait. But they hadn't seen anything yet. February 8th, 2022. 6 a.m. Eastern. Chris Janchowski and his multi-agency task force surround the Manhattan apartment. FBI, IRS criminal investigation, Homeland Security. 6 years of investigation comes down to this morning. The doors explode open. Ilya Lichtenstein and Heather Morgan are arrested in their apartment. Agents seize computers, hard drives, phones, every digital device in the residence. On those devices, investigators find the private keys to 94,000 bitcoins, the massive cash that sat untouched for 6 years while its value exploded. 3.6 billion in bitcoin seized, the largest financial seizure in Department of Justice history. The news breaks worldwide. The cryptocurrency community is stunned. The Forbes columnist and the rapper were the Bitfinex hackers. Razzlekhan was laundering billions. But the question everyone wants answered is, did Ilya actually hack Bitfinex? Or was he just laundering for someone else? They're charged with conspiracy to commit money laundering. But the original hack? That's still unproven. August 2023, 18 months after the arrest. Ilya Lichtenstein stands in federal court and admits the truth. He was the original hacker. He infiltrated Bitfinex in August 2016. He executed those 2,000 transactions. He stole the 119 in 756 bitcoins. It was him all along. Heather Morgan, it turns out, wasn't involved in the original hack. She helped launder the money afterward. The Razzlekhan persona wasn't planning. It was desperation dressed up as confidence. Both plead guilty to conspiracy to commit money laundering. November 2024. Sentencing day. Ilya Lichtenstein, 5 years in federal prison. Heather Morgan, 18 months. For a $4.5 billion crime, these sentences seem impossibly light. But here's why. They cooperated. They returned the Bitcoin. And because blockchain is immutable, investigators recovered the funds. The victims got their money back, now worth far more than when it was stolen. The immutable ledger that recorded their crimes also made recovery possible. But that's not the scary part. 6 years, $4.5 billion, 25,211 bitcoins laundered through the most sophisticated techniques available. And it all came down to a spreadsheet in cloud storage and a blockchain that recorded everything. Here's the central irony of this entire story. Ilya and Heather thought time would make them safer, that each passing year erased evidence. that the complexity of their laundering created anonymity. They were wrong on every count. Time didn't erase evidence. It multiplied it. Every transaction they made in 2016 was still visible in 2022. Every mistake they made early on was preserved forever. Every wallet, every transfer, every attempt to hide. The blockchain recorded it all. They had 6 years and billions of dollars. But freedom was never really an option, because they were trying to hide from a ledger that never forgets, a public record that anyone can examine, a transparent system that tracks every movement. The fortune that should have bought them anything became the evidence that convicted them. But here's what nobody expected. We live in a new era now. Crimes committed today remain visible forever. The blockchain doesn't age. It doesn't forget. It doesn't let go. Ilya and Heather learned this the hard way. You can steal cryptocurrency. You can launder it. You can wait years for the heat to die down. But you can't outrun a ledger that never forgets. And if you think the Bitfinex hack was sophisticated, there's another cryptocurrency heist where hackers stole even more, and some of them are still out there. Because not everyone makes the mistake of keeping a spreadsheet in the cloud, but their transactions, still on the blockchain, waiting, watching, forever.